All right, good evening. The topic for tonight is, are we living in a simulation? So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, this could be a crazy subject, but the more you hear it, and the more you hear what Torah says about it, I think it might blow your mind just a little bit. But Chazal has always said that this isn't the real world anyway. They call this the Olam Deshikra, the world of lies. One great rabbi went up into the heavens, and when he came back, his father said to him, "What did you see?" He said, "I saw an upside-down world. All the people who are choshev in this world, or people that are important in this world, in the other world that I saw, they weren't so important. And the people that aren't important in this world were very important in that world. I saw an olam hafuch, I saw an upside-down world." And his father said to him, "No, you saw the olam ha'emes, you saw the right world. We are living in the upside-down world over here." So already in the Gemara, they're talking about the fact that this is not olam ha'emet, the world of truth. We believe that when we pass on, then we go to olam ha'emet, the world of truth. So the rabbis have been saying this for centuries, that we're not really living in the real world over here. But from a scientific level as well, all of our experiences, our sensual experiences, our hearing, our taste, our sight, is all just electrical impulses. And the proof is you don't need your eyes to see, you don't need your ears to hear, you don't need your mouth to taste. If anyone has ever had a dream, you see in your dream without your eyes. You hear in your dream without your ears. You taste. I've even tasted in my dream. I once ate a big steak. No, I've never managed a cheeseburger. Never. But I've had a steak in my dream, and I actually ate it, and I tasted it. And when I woke up, I was like, "Oh, that was interesting." Yeah. And I've seen myself in a mirror in a dream. I've dreamt about me looking at myself in a mirror. So when you're in a dream, you don't know that you're in a dream. I used to have in the past, I don't have them anymore, thank God. I call them laning dreams. I would go up to lane at the bima. It's usually at the shul that I was the rabbi at. And it was real. And I could read a bit of it. And then something always went wrong with the Torah. Either got wet or it fell off the bima or some terrible laning dream. And I would, nightmare, and then I would know there was even one or two of them that I said, "Oh, this is a dream," but I couldn't escape. And I knew the cars around the bima weren't real. It was a dream, and there was no way out of it. I was stuck in the dream. I had to go through the service, only to wake up and what? Go to shul, to go through the service. My biggest nightmare is going through a whole Yom Kippur in a dream to wake up and there's still Yom Kippur to go through. I'm so scared that's going to happen. I have 2 Yom Kippurs in a row. Because time goes normally when you're in your dream, you taste, you see. So the proof is that it's all electrical impulses. And people that have brain damage in certain areas of their brain taste things differently. They taste sweet as sour and sour as sweet. Or they lose their taste, they can lose their sight. It's all really electrical impulses. So that's number one. So even what we're experiencing now isn't true reality in the experiences that we are experiencing. That I think everybody will agree with. And what I'm experiencing is not the same thing that you're experiencing, and what you're hearing is not necessarily the same what someone else is hearing. Everyone has their own takeaway from this experience. On a physical level, so that's on a chemical level, but even on a physical level, what we think is solid is not solid, because if you go down to the atom, the molecular level, and then deeper into the atomic level, and then deeper into the quantum, then there's really nothing. It's really all empty space. The distance between, we know that matter is made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of protons and neutrons that are surrounded by electrons. Well, that image has been disputed. That is correct, but that image of a solid ball called an atom has been disputed. An atom is more where the electron does zip around the proton and the neutron, but it isn't ever in one place. It appears and reappears, and the space between a proton and an electron. One science teacher told me this. I can't even fathom it in my brain. But if I was standing on a soccer field holding a tennis ball, the tennis ball represents the neutron and the proton in the middle of the atom. The electron would be where the moon is. I mean, think about that empty space. But that's crazy. So when we look at a table, it's really all empty space. My fingers, the table, it's even the physical world that we live in is just empty, 99.999% empty space. So our impulses in this physical world aren't real. They are electrical flashes in our brain that we're all experiencing different, that we don't even know if we're dreaming or not dreaming. I could still have to give the shiur when I wake up. I'm not even sure. And I must tell you, I've even pinched myself. You know, people say, pinch yourself, and you'll know I've pinched myself in a dream, only to feel it in my dream and go, I'm not dreaming because I can feel it. And I wake up and I go, I pinched myself in my dream.
So real.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. And how do blind people dream? People always ask that question. So obviously, if they've seen things in the past before they were blind, they would probably dream in images. But if they've never, I asked a blind person once, he says, I dream in sound. Like he shrugged, like, what a stupid question. I dream sound. The same experience he has when he's awake, he's experiencing life through sound. So when he's asleep, he's experiencing his dreams through sound. All right. Even the fathers of quantum mechanics and quantum physics, like Schrodinger, he said, I'm sorry I had anything to do with this when he discovered the depths of quantum physics. I'm sorry I had anything to do with this. He's the famous one with Schrodinger's cat, where you don't know if the cat's alive or dead in the box, and it only becomes real when you open the box and look. Before that, the cat is both alive and dead before you open the box. The second you open it, you make reality happen. That's what quantum. And when Einstein heard that, he said to Niels Bohr, he called him a Talmudist. A Talmudist. He says, you're like using your Gemara cop. Now, Niels Bohr wasn't a Jew. Einstein was. But that is a very apt sentiment, because the Gemara is what we believe is full of arguments between two rabbis that are representing the same reality. So in Talmud, in Gemara, you can have two rabbis arguing and they're both right. And what do we call that in Hebrew? Elu va'elu divrei Elokim chayim. They're both right. So in quantum physics, is light a particle or is it a wave? They both. They both a particle and a wave at the same time. Depends on the observer. In other words, the light that is coming from a star 15 billion light years away, when you spot it here on Earth and you see it as a particle, that means 15 billion years ago, before the Earth was even formed, before man was even formed on the planet, it knew what the observer would say 15 billion years later, because that light that has finally reached you, that original star's gone. It's not there anymore. It took 15 billion years for that light to get you. And now that it's here, you can determine if it's a wave or a particle. But when it started out there 15 billion years ago, it had to know that you were going to be born to be the observer to decide if it was going to be a particle or a wave. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And that's the reality. In science, it's been proven.
So 27
Yeah, the clock is broken. The clock there is broken wherever I can't see. Anyway, so there is some weird stuff happening in the physical world. And if you watch some YouTube videos on are we living in a simulation, you must hear the voice of Elon Musk and other great thinkers that are around today. And a lot of people are coming to that conclusion. And I don't know if anyone ever played video games, TV games, computer games when you were younger, but there was a game called The Sims, where you started with a person, you could dress them and choose how you wanted them, and then you'd find them a parnosa, and they would buy a house or a TV or a couch, and they would live their lives. And you could play that game and help them make choices and direct them. I remember the cruel thing to do was build them a swimming pool, and then they would go swim, and then you would take the steps out the pool, and they would just swim around until they died because they wouldn't be able to get out the pool. So kids were playing with their Sims, Sim City and the Sims, and it got cleverer and cleverer. And who says someone's not playing this video game here? And have just set us up in this simulation that we're in. And that's the topic of the shiur. Are we living in a computer game-like simulation? So this concept would make a lot of sense. Number one, there's a few issues before we get to the Torah issues. Number one, how come the universe is so perfectly mathematical that everything works mathematically? Kepler, when he discovered planetary motion, he gave mathematical equations to the movement of every planet, and they never deviate from those mathematical equations. How did he get it so perfect? So if you say it's a computer program, there's a programmer that programmed it mathematically perfectly. There's no random, there's no chaos. It's all been programmed, and it's perfectly programmed. So that would explain why the universe is so mathematical, because we're living in a simulation. Another one is a question that you can ask a evolutionist, biologist, if you believe in evolution. Why do we sleep? It's actually evolutionary, it's counterintuitive. Because if evolution is all about the survival of the fittest, we should have evolved by now. I don't know how long Homo sapiens have been around, according to evolution, 100,000 years. So we should have evolved the ability not to sleep. Because when you sleep, firstly, you're vulnerable. Any creature can eat you. And that's not survival of the fittest. If you were really the fittest, you would never sleep. Because those guys who slept 100,000 years ago are all dead and never passed that sleeping gene onto their kids. So it's not in our DNA to sleep. Should be, but we sleep. Why do we sleep? Also, it's a waste of 8 good hours every day. If we're meant to be productive, how do you understand sleep? So if you understand that we're in a simulation and so every computer needs a defrag. You actually need to defrag your hard drive so that you can it can resort itself out. Otherwise, it becomes a mush, a mess, and it doesn't work as optimally as it used to. So scientists and biologists are explaining that we need to sleep to rearrange our hard drive in our brain so that we can order our thoughts properly so we don't wake up all confused. That's what dreaming and sleeping is all about, an opportunity to defrag. So if we're living in a simulation, that makes even more sense why we need sleep. It's very much part of everything. The conclusions of us living in a simulation is, number one, if we are in a simulation, there must be a programmer, a master programmer who programmed the simulation, or a creator that created the simulation we're in. That's point number one. Point number two, every action, every sound bite, every activity, has been recorded and is recorded and can be called up at a later point when necessary, right? Nothing is ever lost. Every word I'm saying is recorded somewhere. It's in bytes and bits in a memory bank somewhere if it's a simulation. And number three, this isn't real, but there must be a real reality somewhere beyond that. And by the way, those 3 points, creator, everything is recorded, that this isn't the real world, there isn't olam haba, is 3 tenets of the 13 principles of faith that the Rambam says is part of what a Jew has to believe to be a Jew, that you believe there's a creator, you believe that everything is recorded, and you're held responsible. Even in this simulation, we'll see later in a few minutes, why is that so important? If we're in a simulation, what difference does it make? We're just playing a game. So we'll see how important that game really is. But let's look at Torah sources now.
People got empty space. I feel like you're telling us now. I realize there's an empty space.
Okay, Barry's pointing at his head. For those who are on the Zoom and can't see and appreciate you, But I think it's all right. So what does the Torah say about this simulation theory? So number one, Pirkei Avot, it says, Da ma lemala mimech, know what is above you. There's an ayin ro'ah, there's a seeing eye, ozen shamat, a hearing ear, and all your activities are written down in a book. Okay, so the rabbis have already told us this 1,500 years ago. The rabbis were already telling us that something is recording, which we believe is Hashem, obviously. Hashem is recording everything that we do. So that's very much what we said. If it's a computer simulation or a simulation, then everything is recorded, is in the memory of the computer. Mathematically as well. It's all perfect. Try send someone an email, but instead of writing @gmail.com, you write @gmail, com. The guy will never get the email. But what's the difference? It's a dot or it's a little dash. Does it really make a difference in the big scheme of things? Your email never went. So that's when people say, does Hashem really care if I eat a cheeseburger? That's like a comma and not a dot. That's like not a full stop. You know, you've just done something cosmically huge in the programming. You don't even realize, yes, you're playing a game. Yes, we're living a game. It's not real. This isn't the real. It feels real, but in a dream, it also feels real. And hears and sounds and looks and tastes. But that doesn't mean it's real. But it also doesn't mean that your actions have an effect in the game. Obviously, you can never hurt the programmer. If one of your little creatures on Pac-Man bites the wall and does something that's not meant to do in the game, bites through the wall of the game, it's never going to affect the programmer. He's so removed from it. And that's what we believe. Hashem is removed from space and time. That's his name. Yud Hey Vav Hey is a contraction of Haya, Hoveh, V'yiyeh. He was, is, and always will be at the same time. That means Hashem isn't involved in our space and time. And listen to another word I heard, Makom. One of the names of Hashem is called the place. So we have Haya, Hoveh, V'yiyeh, which is time, and Makom, which is space. So Hashem and Einstein taught us that space and time go together. You can't separate them. There are 4 dimensions. It's called the space-time continuum. And you have to look at everything together. You can't just look at space. And you can't just look at time. You have to look at space, time as 4 dimensions all together. Otherwise, things don't make sense. And Hashem is Haya Hoveh V'yiyeh, which is time. And he's also called the Makom, which is space. And apparently, if you want to get the space of something, you measure its length times its breadth. It's you square it. So if you take the Yud Hey Vav Hey, the Yud is 10 and you square it, you get 100. If you take the Hey and you square it, you get, if Hey is 5, you get 25. You take the Vav and you square it, it's 36. You take the Hey and you square it, it's another 25. If you add that up, it's the same gematria as Makom, which is place. So Hashem, which is Haya Hoveh V'yiyeh, which is timeless, is also spaceless. Space-time. I just learned that tonight when I wasn't even preparing for this. I just learned that word tonight. So Hashem, what we call Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the tetragrammaton, which is Havaya, which is all of reality, is the real reality, is what is Hashem. So someone who says, I don't believe in Hashem, says, I don't believe in time, space, I don't believe in reality. That's okay. Go for it. So don't believe in reality. Don't believe in everything. It's not that Hashem is in space, flying around the clouds. Space is within Hashem. Time is beyond Hashem. He's looking at it. So again, that little Pac-Man can never, ever hurt. It's a programmer. How's it going to jump out of the screen and bite him? Doesn't work. He can only be in that framework, in that one program. This also explains, there's a book called the Tikkunei Zohar, which has hundreds of just on the first pasuk of Bereshit bara Elokim, vorts, hundreds of vorts, ideas on what just that first verse means. So one of the words Bereshit is Rosh Bayit. If you turn the letters around, Beis, Reish, Aleph, Shin, Yud, Tav. So you got there Reish and Aleph, Shin, Rosh, and then Bayit, which is the whole of the house, the whole program, the whole is in the Rosh, is in the head of Hashem, Rosh Bayit. That's already the Torah starts. And the code of the Torah, it says, Histakel Boraita Ubara Alma. How did Hashem create this world? He looked into the Torah and created this world. So we believe as Jews that the Torah is the program, the blueprint, the architectural program of the creation of this world. That's also been in the Gemara. Another one, the rabbis tell us in Pirkei Avot that you mustn't, a person should prepare in the hallway before going to the party, prepare in the prosdor before going to the ulam, to the big hall. So we say that this world is merely just the entranceway, the prosdor, the what's it called, the antechamber, before you actually get into the banquet and into the big, where it's all really happening. Again, there's the idea of us living in a simulation, a non-real reality, and we're waiting to get into a real reality. In davening, we say every day, "Hamachadesh betuvoy b'chol yom tamid." Hashem renews all of creation every day, always. So that's also true with electrons, in that they are always renewing themselves, flashing in and out of existence all the time. They never stop. The world is, that's why this world in Hebrew is called aretz, from the word ratz. It's always dynamic. It's always running. It doesn't ever stop. Shamayim is the word sham, which is there. That means it's stopped, because you can point to it. Sham, there, means it's something that is stationary. But aretz is something that is running and moving and dynamic. Mechadesh betuva b'chol yom tamid. Hashem is renewing creation all the time. He's checking the code, if you want the game theory, the simulation of a computer game. He's checking the code, that the code is working, that there are no bugs in the code. Because as soon as there's a bug, there's a glitch. Something's not going to work properly. You know, you're going to have a car drive through a wall and be fine on the other end. So it has to be checked. The code has to be checked all the time. Listen to this from a non-Jewish scientist, Max Planck. He said, "We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and an intelligent mind. Again, we must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind." So even a non-Jewish scientist came to the conclusion, after seeing everything scientifically as an atheist, came to the conclusion there has to be a great mind behind it all. Some of them couldn't deny the fact that there was a great mind behind it, that they went to alien theory and said, "Oh, well, then aliens put us here. Aliens are playing the game," because they could never accept Hashem. So they had to find something greater than our minds, and must be an alien technology. So that's, a lot of those guys go that way, because they don't want to accept Hashem, because then Hashem comes with a whole lot of rules. Aliens don't necessarily come with rules, because they dropped us here and left. But if you take the Hashem path, then he comes with a set of rules, and a lot of people want the cheeseburger, so it's not really so lekker to accept Hashem, but we understand why. Even Schrodinger, the same guy that we mentioned before, he said, in truth, there is only one mind. And we don't need them to tell us that. We've said it in the Torah for 3,300 years that we've had the Torah. Hashem's had it for much longer. But what we've had it for, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hashem is the one mind. That's our understanding, that the oneness of Hashem isn't that he's one, but he is only him. It's one mind that is ruling everything and is determining and programming and being and doing everything. All right, there's other stuff here as well. Okay, I want to skip all this. All right, what's Hashem doing while we busy living this reality? So there are sources in Tehillim chapter 2, verse 4. It says, Yoishev Bashamayim Yischak. Hashem sits in heaven and he's playing. I mean, it uses the word Yischak from the word Mesachek. Sachek, not Yitzchak. That's laughing. Yitzchak. Yud Sin Chet Kuf. So what does it mean Hashem is sitting up in heaven playing? What's he playing? The game of this life that we call, that's so important to us. It's our life. But it's really just a game. Here's another one. I love this. This Gemara is in Baba Metzia, page 59a. The rabbis are having a huge argument about the tanur of achnai, a certain type of oven, and the kashrut and the impurity of this oven. Don't worry about the case itself. But the rabbis, the majority of rabbis, are arguing with Rabbi Yeshua. with Rabbi Eliezer. And the rabbis are arguing, and Rabbi Eliezer wants to prove that he's right. So he says, if I'm right, the river will flow backwards. And then the river starts flowing backwards. And the rabbis say, you can't bring a proof from a river. And then he says, okay, if I'm right, and the halacha is like me, then that tree outside will uproot itself. Boom, the tree flies up, uproots itself. And the rabbis are like nonplussed. They say, can't prove anything from a tree. And then he says, okay, if I'm right, the walls of the Beit Midrash will crumble and fall in. So the walls start crumbling, and the rabbis jump up and they say, stop, don't crumble. And the walls stop. So apparently the Gemara says, till this day, you can go there and you'll see the walls have never crumbled and have never straightened themselves. They're like in a perpetual state of falling, but they've never fallen. And then in the end of the whole debate, he says, if I'm right, Hashem will tell you that I'm right. And a voice comes out of heaven at that point, the rabbis record, and it says, why are you picking on Rabbi Eliezer? He's always right. And what do the rabbis say? Lo bashamayim. The Torah is not in heaven anymore. Hashem gave it to us to decide cases. And if you have a majority arguing with a minority, we always follow the majority. It says that in the same Torah that we're using. So we don't care what you say, Rabbi Eliezer. Even if you write, the majority rules, and therefore we go according to majority. But hold on, that's not the end of the story. There's a postscript to the story. Rabbi Yoshua, who's one of the rabbis, he bumped into Eliyahu Navi, and he said, Eliyahu Navi, just tell me, I'm interested to know, what was Hashem doing at the end of that story? When he watched this whole thing take place with the river and the tree and the walls, and Hashem himself said, why are you fighting with Rabbi Eliezer? He's always right. What was Hashem doing? You know what Eliyahu Navi said? Hashem was laughing, and he said, Nitzchuni bonai nitzchuni. My children, you have beaten me. My children, you have beaten me. Okay, I'm not making up any of the stuff. This is an English translation of the Gemara in Baba Metzia, page 59. So the rabbis are telling us this story, whether it happened or not. But obviously something happened over there. Let's go back to our computer game analogy. So this Rabbi Eliezer was so clever. He knew how to manipulate the code that was sitting behind the computer game. So he's like the little Pac-Man who can go through the wall. He can't jump out of the screen and bite you, but he can go through the wall. He can make himself green or red if he wants. Doesn't have to be yellow. But the rabbis are saying to him, we don't care that you know how to manipulate the game. That doesn't prove anything, because the game has a set of rules. Okay, so well done. You worked out the code. You worked out the coding of the game. You got behind the coding. You even changed the coding, and you made weird things happen in our world of reality. But that doesn't impress us, because the master coder who coded it used the book, and we always follow that code book. Yes, you can change code, but that doesn't make it right. You can make noises come out of heaven. You can make streams go backwards. You can manipulate the code. And then the wording of Hashem is interesting as well. The word nitzchuni, you beat me. What do you mean we beat Hashem? Because if it's a game, then there are winners and losers. So that's what Hashem was saying. You beat me because we're playing. It's a game that we're playing over here. So that makes sense that Hashem would use a terminology like that. There are other Gemaras that say that when a rabbi paskins, not me, but a real, with a big white beard, I've got a little white beard. When these big, great rabbonim, when they paskin, they actually change reality. So when you bring your chicken to one rabbi and you say, Rabbi, is this kosher? And he looks at it and says, not treif. Even if the chicken was kosher, because say you went to another rabbi just 5 minutes before, and the rabbi said it's kosher. Yeah, kosher. And now you took it to a second rabbi, which you should never do. Never play, ask the rabbi like this. But if you go to another rabbi and you say, Rabbi, is this chicken kosher? And you know it's kosher because you just asked the other rabbi down the road. That's why I'm happy Musenberg there's only one rabbi. But yeah, with cars, you could go to Rabbi Green in Constantia, ask him, he says 100% kosher. You come here and you come to me and you say, I say, no, it's treif. The rabbis teach us, Chazal, the sages teach us that a rabbi psak can change reality. And by him saying that, he actually made that chicken's now treif. Now you're not allowed to eat that chicken. And if you eat it, it's like you ate treif chicken. Yeah, so there was a joke. They wanted to make a website, and instead of ask the rabbi, you put in the answer you want, and this website finds the rabbi that will give you that answer. A brilliant app idea. All right. So let's finally wrap this all up. Let's this, by the way, is Rabbi Ephraim Palvanov, as usual. He gave it a few weeks ago. If you want to listen to the whole shiur, it's much deeper and it's about an hour and 15 minutes long. So Rabbi Ephraim Palvanov, is Torah simulation. He also goes on to explain another unbelievable concept, is that they've measured the universe is 93 billion light years big. 93 billion. It's such a big number. It's such a massive distance that our minds can't even fathom it. That means it takes light traveling. Like if I switch on a torch here, how long does it take for the light to go from my torch to the wall? Speed of light, which is very fast. How long does it take light to get to the moon? If I shine a torch to the moon, I think it takes a few seconds. How long does it take the sun when it switches on in the morning? How long does it take the sun's beam to hit you? 8 minutes. That's how far away the sun is. So can you imagine the size of the universe is 93 billion light years. So that means if you shot light from the one end of the universe to the other, it would take 93 billion years for the light to get across at that speed of light. That's and according to some physicists, it's still expanding. But why do we need such a big universe? So the answer is, if it's a simulation, it's not. It's just part of the background. Another thing in simulation is that if you've ever played a game, only the room that you're in or the map that you're on is rendered. As soon as you leave it, it's not there anymore. So this is a weird question. How do you know your house is still there if you're not in it? Your house is only there when you go to your house, because no game would have everything rendered at the same time. It would just be a waste of space and memory usage. So the stuff is only there when you're there, when you're not there. And that's part of quantum physics, that the observer, the way you're looking at it, determines its reality. And that would also answer up quantum. How come the cat is alive or dead? Well, it all depends on you, because you're playing the game. So that theory, scientists love this because it also explains quantum, and it explains how the cat can be alive and dead at the same time based on your observation, which is very similar to that. Anyway, okay, so what is the conclusion? What's the takeaway message from it? So okay, we established that we're in a simulation. We know there is a master programmer. So the answer is, and I love this, says Rabbi Ephraim, firstly, the game has rules. You can't play the game the way you want to. To get the most out of the game, you have to play the game properly. If you play your own rules, it's not fun anymore, but you're messing stuff up. You have to play the game according to the rules of the game. And us Jews believe that the Torah is the rule book for the game of life that we're playing over here. Number two, I love this one. The aim of playing the game is in the playing of the game, not in finishing the game. Because if you've ever played a game, when you finished it, it's bittersweet. You're happy that you finished it, but now what? So the aim of life is not to finish life. The aim of life is to play life, to be in it all the time, as long as you can. And that's why death is a tragedy, because now the guy's not playing the game anymore. But while you're alive, you can still play the game. That's the Vilna Gaon holding the tzitzit and saying, for just a few kopecks, for a few cents, you can do mitzvahs, you can play the game of life. And where I'm going now, he says, there are no mitzvahs. He knew when he on his deathbed that where he was going, there was no more, that it was all over for him. I mean, obviously he'll have Olam Haba and everything else we believe in, but the actual struggle of this world is part of that excitement of the world as well. Also says in Pirkei Avot, Asay Ratzoncha ki Ratzono, make your will like his will. So that's part and parcel of what we're saying over here, that if you wanted this world to be your playground, so do it the way Hashem wants it to be played, and then you'll make your will like his will. You'll live your life, and then it says after that, Hashem will make his will like your will. And then whatever you want, you'll be in line and in sync, same wavelength with Hashem. This also explains other two statements. Hillel said when he spoke about the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, when Hillel used to go to the drawing of water on Sukkot, when they poured water libations on the Mizbeach. Hillel used to say a weird statement. He used to say, Imani kan, hakol kan. If I'm here, then everything's here. But if I'm not here, nothing's here. That's very similar to when you walk in a computer game. That's when the room becomes real. When you're out of it, it disappears back into code. So only when I'm here is everything here. And this also explains another Gemara in Sanhedrin, that it says a person has to remind themselves every day, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, the world was created only for me. I mean, that sounds like a very arrogant statement if you read it out of context, but if you put it in the context of this game theory, of this simulation theory, what comes out is that, yeah, this whole game, what I'm sensing from my perspective, is all for me. All you people, all this, the rooms, everything, the experiences, Hashem put it all here for me, not to be arrogant about it that I'm the most important. No, this is all happening for me and me only, as from my perspective. That is 100% quite correct. So if you take all these Gemaras, I agree, some of them are out of context and that, but if you take all these Gemaras together and you take all these Pesukim, you take these statements from Rabbi Akiva and from Pirkei Avot, and then you put them all together, it actually seems quite compelling that what the rabbis have said, that Hashem looked into this world, looked into the Torah, created this world, and our job is to play the best game that we can possibly play. Shkayach.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone.